In today's video we are looking back at the PlayStation 3 and we are also discussing how good the PlayStation 3 is in 2023, so see this video as both a retrospective and a review of the PlayStation 3 in 2023. The PlayStation 3 is today 16 years old, yes 16 years, I feel old just by uttering these words. Can you believe it, 16 years? The PlayStation 3 still feels like a modern day system because it has online multiplayer functionalities, but it's also free. Yes, it's free. Yeah, that was a time when Sony was more pro-consumer, I know, crazy, right? And the PlayStation 3 has also a great and big library of games. I will show some of them right here, right now, and obviously we'll discuss the games in a later part of the video. The PlayStation 3 also has a HDMI output up until Full HD, aka 920 to 1080p. It also has a wireless Bluetooth controller with a rechargeable battery, and it also introduced the Blu-ray format, what was revolutionary for both the video game and movie industry. I think all of these advantages makes this system very accessible for the year 2023. Anyways, let's start discussing the different models of the PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 3 got a lot of different models, so let's discuss the different models of the PlayStation 3. Let's start with the very first model of the PlayStation 3, the so-called Fat PlayStation 3 model, what was also able to play PlayStation 2 games natively, later on emulated and later on completely removed. Thank you Sony, I love you. Well, at least we got a sleek redesign. It still hurts to think about the missing PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility. At least with this redesign, the red ring of death was completely removed. What it's also important to note out is although not all PlayStation 3 models can play PlayStation 2 games, at least all PlayStation 3 models still kept the PlayStation 1 backwards compatibility, what means that all PlayStation 3 models can play PlayStation 1 games. And with the new sleek redesign of the PlayStation 3 we also got a price cut of $299.99, what was a killer price for the PlayStation 3. How you can see I have a satin silver PlayStation 3 with 320GB of storage. What is quite cool and unique if you ask me. It's a rare PlayStation 3 and I also have the original silver controller what came with the console. I also own this even more rare PlayStation 3 Tales of Xillia X Edition 160GB console, and I recently got this really cool PlayStation 3 DualShock 3 Tales of Xillia X Edition controller, what was sold separately after the release of Tales of Xillia 2. If you want to watch my unboxing of my Japanese box too, with a lot of Japanese goodness including this controller, you will find this video linked somewhere in my video description or comment section. You will find it somewhere there here in this video, so don't worry guys. Shameless plug, I know. There is also a PlayStation 3 Super Slim. It's pretty much a PlayStation 3 Slim, just slimmer. I personally don't like this model because although there was a 500GB storage model, most people got the cheaper 12GB storage model, and let's be honest here guys, with 12GB today you can do nothing. 12GB it's nothing, don't convince me otherwise. And if you want to buy a PlayStation 3 in 2023, you should look for a bigger storage model. They also replaced the sturdy plastic with a more thinner and cheaper plastic, and the overall design feels very cheap and flimsy. The biggest reason to own this model is if space it's a concern. Otherwise I will look for different models. Obviously this model was very cheap. At release date this model had a killer price tag of $199.99. So yeah, $200, and you really cannot complain for $200. It's a next gen system for $200. Obviously this system in particular, this model in particular, isn't really that amazing for 2023, but for that market, for that time, it was really good. It was a really good deal. Anyways, let's discuss the Blu-ray format. The PlayStation 3 was also the first console what introduced the Blu-ray format, a format what revolutionized the video game industry. Nowadays we cannot imagine a high-budget AAA game without being burned on a Blu-ray disc. The PlayStation 3 was also the cheapest Blu-ray player, also capable of playing Blu-ray movies, and you can still run DVD and CDs. So if you have a DVD movie or a CD music disc, you can use the PlayStation 3 as a DVD and CD player as well. Sadly PlayStation Sony later on removed this capability. The newer PlayStation consoles cannot run DVD and CD, what is stupid if you ask me. And because the PlayStation 3 is such a versatile system, I think the PlayStation 3 it's the perfect multimedia system. It has a good big hard drive and it can run Blu-ray, DVDs and CDs. So it can run pretty much any physical media. It's pretty much the perfect multimedia system. But anyways, let's discuss the brilliant user interface of the PlayStation 3. In my opinion, the PlayStation 3 had one of the best PlayStation user interfaces of all PlayStation consoles, and you guys actually agree with me, because I did a voting over 3 months ago and the results talk for themselves. And with over 200 votes, I think we can all agree that the PlayStation 3 had the best user interface. Although, to be fair, the PlayStation 4 user interface, it's almost there. It's so close to the PlayStation 3's user interface. But I still think the PlayStation 3's user interface, it's the best. I think Sony struck gold with this user interface. It's easy to use and it's very customizable. The PlayStation 3 offers custom themes to be used, a modern store to buy games at least for now, and it's still functional. But if you watch this video in a later time, maybe Sony already shut down the store. It also has the capabilities of putting a game in a sleep mode. You have trophy system and a save file folder, very detailed settings and so on and so on. How you can see, it's a very well made UI, what feels very modern even today. Now let's talk about the games. The PlayStation 3 had a really rough start. You need to understand that developers at that time didn't really know how to utilize the cell PlayStation 3 architecture. That created some problems down the line for Sony. Thankfully, Sony was able to turn the tables around a couple years after the launch of the system. If you ask me which system has the better third-party support from that generation, I would say it's definitely Xbox with the Xbox 360. But when it comes to the first-party support, I will give the crown to Sony. I also think that generation was the golden age of gaming. All three companies, Nintendo, Sony and Microsoft, had something the other company didn't have. The Nintendo Wii had motion controls, a new fun unique experience for the whole family. The Xbox 360 had the best third-party support by far, and the PlayStation 3 had the best first-party support compared to those other two companies. Also in 2023, using a PlayStation 3 it's so easy because that system used a HDMI output. That means that you don't need an adapter to play your PlayStation 3 games on a modern TV, you just need a HDMI cable. But let's now talk about the game selection from the PlayStation 3. We had brilliant first-party and third-party exclusives like God of War, Uncharted 1, 2 and 3, Persona 5, Infamous, Little Big Planet, The Last of Us, Puppeteer, Folklore, Heavenly Sword, Tales of Xillia 1 and 2. The list is endless and you can see now why the PlayStation 3 it's one of my favorite systems of all time. Sony definitely turned the tables around and it still had a pretty decent third-party support, with games like Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Bayonetta, Dante's Inferno, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy, Naruto Storm, Red Dead Redemption, South Park, The Stick of Truth, Assassin's Creed, Skyrim, Skate and way more. The PlayStation 3 also introduced to us the classic HD collections, with games like Devil May Cry HD Collection, Tomb Raider, Splinter Cell, Hitman, God of War and way more. I plan on getting the Prince of Persia one as well. Game-wise, this generation had a lot to offer and was amazing. The only game genre that did suffer from this generation was the JRPG game genre, sadly. I love this genre and we had some really good games this generation from the JRPG genre, but generally speaking that was a dark time for us JRPG fans. Anyways, let's discuss the game prices and the console prices of the PlayStation 3. I will split this category into multiple subcategories like prices at launch, prices right now for used PlayStation 3 consoles and prices right now for used PlayStation 3 games. Let's first go back to E3 2006 and discuss the reveal and price structure of the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 3 was revealed at E3 2006 with a price tag of $599.99, what was a huge mistake by Sony. For reference, the Xbox 360 had a price tag of $399.99, and on top of that it ran third-party games with a much better frame rate and resolution. It's really hard to sell your console for $200 more, while your competition runs games with a better resolution and frame rate. Because of that huge mistake, Sony put all of the efforts into first-party content. And in my opinion, the PlayStation 3 had one of the strongest first-party lineups Sony has ever had on the PlayStation. The mistake Sony made was to partner with IBM and Toshiba to create their infamous Cell CPU architecture. Because of how hard it was to produce this chip and how advanced this architecture actually was, it was pretty much impossible for Sony to lower the price of the PlayStation 3, and so Sony gave Microsoft and Nintendo a huge advantage. It was a hard pill to swallow. Sony later on gave us a really good price cut of $299.99 while introducing the better PlayStation 3 Slim model. Sadly, that model also removed the PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility. Now let's discuss a topic more people will find more beneficial: the current price tag of the PlayStation 3 on the used second-hand market. My PlayStation 3 satin silver 320GB with the original silver controller and with Final Fantasy 13, 13/2 and Lightning Returns, I paid for this whole package only €73, with shipping and all. And for my Tales of Xillia X Edition PlayStation 3 in amazing condition, in box, I paid €180 with shipping. It all depends on the model, rarity, in what condition the system is. Are you getting the box with the console, original cables, manuals, controllers, games, accessories, and. For the system alone with no box, no extra games, only cables and only one controller, I would recommend to aim for a price of around $50 to $70 or euro. So yeah, if you ask me, this is a very fair price. Obviously you can go cheaper, you can go higher, depending on the model, depending on the accessories, games, and so on and so on. Obviously, if you bid on eBay auctions, or if you live nearby a pawn shop or a Goodwill, or you know some people or places where you can score a cheap garage sale, go for it. I always encourage people to go deal hunting if they have the time and opportunity to do so. Let's now discuss the game prices. I will use the average used video game prices by using price charting. On price charting, the average game price of a PlayStation 3 game, taking both the most expensive and the cheapest games. So taking all games in account, it's around $14, and in my opinion $14 it's a killer price for used retro games, especially in 2023. Right now PlayStation 3 prices are ridiculously low, but keep in mind that it did start rise in value, ever so slightly. In 2017, PlayStation 3 average game prices were around $8, now they are $14. So you see the trend of PlayStation 3 games rising in value. I would recommend starting a collection right now, just in case, because sooner or later those game prices will skyrocket in value. Let's finish this video with my final conclusion of the PlayStation 3. It's worth buying, investing and using a PlayStation 3 in 2023. I will obviously list here all the advantages and disadvantages of the PlayStation 3, so you can make your own opinion about the system. I think the PlayStation 3 feels very good in 2023. We still got the free online multiplayer, but it's a huge advantage over other systems. The store is still online, the system has a sleek and simple design with a modern user interface, but it's still very customizable. The game library was in some aspects very strong, specifically the first party offering, while third party it's a mixed bag for me, specifically because of the lackluster performance caused by the cell architecture. On the other hand, the launch price was way too high, but Sony did turn the tables around midway the 7th generation and lowered the prices and started to compete with Microsoft and Nintendo. And right now, used video games for the PlayStation 3 are very cheap and very affordable. Combine this with a very cheap Blu-ray, DVD and CD player, all in one, and you get a PlayStation 3, the ultimate multimedia machine monster. And that's why I think the PlayStation 3 it's a great system in 2023. But what do you think about the PlayStation 3 in 2023? What do you think about the history of the PlayStation 3? Did you own a PlayStation 3 back when it released? Write me down below your opinion about the PlayStation 3. And with this out of the way, I wish you all a wonderful day. Sayonara my good old PlayStation 3 friends. Bye, bye, and bye.